Welcome to the Beyond Binge Eating podcast, where we explore what it really takes to break free from binge eating and food addiction through science, lived experience, and the wisdom of the body. Today, I want to share a personal story about a turning point in my understanding of cravings, specifically urges to binge eat, and how a body of work called Mindfulness-Based Relapse Prevention shifted the way that I approach both my recovery and the work I do with others. I've been studying urges and cravings for years, like deeply studying, reading everything I could, clinical papers, neuroscience, therapy manuals, you name it. I was doing comprehensive literature reviews, trying to understand what the research said about how to cope with urges to binge, because I had this very specific question. What actually works when someone feels that overwhelming compulsion to eat, even when they don't want to? And to be honest, I kept coming up short. The research was either limited, narrow, or not quite relevant to binge eating. Generally, the research that I had found at first on urges and compulsions was focused on management of OCD. I found bits and pieces, some behavioral strategies here, some cognitive tools there, but it felt limited. Then something unexpected happened. I was in the early stages of preparing for my dissertation. I hadn't even gotten ethics board approval yet, but I was deep in the proposal phase. And around that same time, I enrolled in a teacher certification training for mindfulness-based relapse prevention, also known as MBRP. And that's when my mind kind of exploded. I suddenly stumbled into this whole other world of literature I had not seen before. Studies and frameworks that addressed cravings and urges. It was like I had been looking through the wrong lens the whole time, or possibly using the wrong keywords. MBRP was originally developed for substance use, drugs, and alcohol, but what struck me immediately was how seamlessly I could replace those words with binge eating or compulsive food behaviors, and everything still applied. In fact, the updated version of the MBRP manual by Dr. Sarah Bowen et al. Is now called Mindfulness-Based Relapse Prevention for Addictive Behaviors, and it makes room for all kinds of compulsive tendencies, not just substances. And as I went through the teacher certification program, I really found that it struck a chord in me. One thing that resonated with me is the tone. It's not this pedantic, I'm going to tell you what to do type of approach. It's not about fixing or controlling. It's about contact with the present moment. It uses something called direct inquiry, where you're invited to explore what's actually happening in your body and mind right now. Not your story about it, not your interpretations or your childhood narrative, but your raw sensory experience. And the research on MBRP is incredible. It's one of the most effective science-backed approaches out there for preventing relapse and supporting long-term recovery. It gives people real tools to manage cravings, regulate emotions, and break those automatic reactive patterns. It's one of the most promising and empowering interventions we have in the recovery space today. I continue to go to MBRP discussion meetings when I can, and I'm remembering a time we talked about the conceptual tension between acceptance and action. So much of mindfulness-based recovery emphasizes learning to sit with discomfort, to build distress tolerance, to just be with your craving instead of reacting to it. And yes, that is powerful. But here's a tension I ran into. I literally wrote my dissertation about sensory strategies for coping with urges to binge eat. I believe in the power of sensory strategies, tools that shift your physiological state like breathwork, movement, temperature shifts, or grounding with texture or scent. These are not about just passively sitting with discomfort. They're actions. They change your state. They help regulate your nervous system. So the question for me was, if we use a sensory strategy to change how we feel, are we still practicing acceptance? It's a question that I brought up in one of the live discussion MBRP groups, and it sparked such a rich discussion. Dr. Sarah Bowen herself was leading the meeting and said that her reckoning with the relationship between acceptance and action is ongoing. Even after decades in this field, she still explores this. And this felt really validating because I was trying to figure out this relationship between acceptance and action. But what she did say is that what matters most is intention and awareness. If you can pause, even for a micro moment, and feel what's happening in your body, and then choose your response intentionally, whether that's staying with the discomfort, doing a sensory strategy, or whatever, if you did it with awareness rather than automaticity and knee-jerk reactivity, that is what matters. That reframe is interesting because it means we don't have to stay stuck in the binary of pure acceptance versus fixing it. I believe we can create a cycle, an iterative process where sensory regulation gives us just enough ground to be in the present. And then we build distress tolerance, and then we access more emotional and cognitive resources. And then maybe we use another sensory strategy to reset and go deeper again. That feels to me like real life mindfulness. It's not rigid, it's flexible and responsive. Buddhism has always acknowledged the reality of craving. In fact, craving is one of the core concepts of suffering in the Four Noble Truths. But the goal isn't to suppress craving or punish ourselves for having it. The path is to see it clearly, to recognize it as a wave that rises and falls, and over time to loosen its grip, not by force, but by presence. So that's where I'm at right now, continuing to explore this balance between being with and doing something about, between acceptance and action. And I don't claim to have it all figured out. But I do believe that these questions matter and that there's something in simply staying in the conversation. If this resonates with you, and if you're someone who struggles with food urges or binge eating, and you're curious about how mindfulness might help, I'd love to invite you to contact me for a free consultation, and we can talk about an upcoming MBRP for food addiction group. It's a small supportive cohort where we will explore these practices together. You can email me at info@beyondbingeeating.com, and my contact info is in the episode description below. If you're vibing with this content, then please like this video and subscribe to this channel. I also have a free newsletter you can sign up at beyondbingeeating.com/newsletter. Until next time, my loves. In the meantime, stay kind and stay curious.